Welcome to the podcast. I'm Andy Vaughter. My guest today is a lead designer at Furniture Solutions Now in Dallas, Texas. Her name is Arwen McMakin, and she is a lead designer who also is a little bit of an account manager that works directly with a lot of customers. She's a very unique person, and I wanted to sit down with her because her passion for design as well as taking care of customers shines through in everything that she does, including in how she works with companies like ours. Let's jump in and have a listen. Arwen, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. You are your title says designer and account manager.
Correct.
For Furniture Solutions Now.
Yes.
And Corporate Source.
Yep.
And also FSN.
FSN, Total Office Solutions. Yes, the hybrid,
yes.
the furniture.
There's so many different names there. So you do design and account management. Tell me a little bit more about your current role there.
So I started as just a designer, and I worked my way to the senior designer role, and then I don't know, you know Brent Gill, right? He's an account manager there too. So the two of us just kind of meshed really well together and paired up, and so we're kind of a team, we're a partnership, and so I can do that role of the account managing and a little bit of the design on the side, and then project management always comes into play as well. So there's many hats there, but it's I think you need to have that hybrid in order to be somewhat successful.
Sure, yeah. So you two work together really well. So
very well, yeah.
You've got lots of clients, and you're the one that kind of brings it all together, right? And makes it
all
work.
It's in theory, I have to say it's a give and take kind of relationship there, because Brent has that experience of 20 some plus years of the industry, so he knows the in and outs, and then I'll bring the design expertise, and then just kind of a good support role to help the hybrid of the two of us kind of go. We also have two other teammates that are solely allocated to our team. Okay. So it takes a village. You can't do it by yourself, right? So we're fortunate to have that.
Is that how your dealership is set up?
No, we're kind of the odd pairing, I think. It just worked with the way that our relationship is and the way that we mesh well together. I think the owner of the company is slowly trying to integrate that into some other account manager designers to see how well it works, but it all comes down to that chemistry that you have with somebody. Can you tolerate them? And their work ethic.
Well, we have the same thing around here, because traditionally salespeople, like pure salespeople, are horrible at details and follow up on the back end of things. They just like to be out on the front end of all that stuff.
That can be true.
It's not. Sometimes you find the unicorn that can kind of do it all, but most, if you want to scale your business, that's not going to happen very well. So, yeah, we try and pair up a person that's really good at details and working through, the projects and helping all the things that maybe that salesperson is not great at, and then the two together can be unstoppable.
Exactly.
Kind of
Weaknesses on both ends,
exactly.
And so then you kind of bring in those strengths. And
we've made the mistake at times of taking someone who's really, really good at the details and maybe project management and try them out in a pure sales role, because you think that, they're good with clients, and they're like, no, I just want to work with clients. I don't want to find clients. Like, that's a whole different game.
That is a whole nother animal. That's for sure.
Yeah, we over the years we've learned how to kind of pair those teams together. You guys are like the best example, though. I can tell you from what from the in this city we always hear, the Brent and Arwen
show
team.
Just kidding.
The show is it's well known, well documented.
Oh, so. Well, thank you. That's good to know.
So how long have you been at FSN?
I've been there for 7 years now.
Okay. And how long have you been a designer in the industry or in?
7 years. So a little background was I was a stay-at-home mom actually for 10 years, and then I put myself through school while raising a family. Wow. And as soon as I graduated, my first job, I did the internship with a company, and then to do a full-time job, I went straight to FSN and had been there ever since.
Fantastic. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
Well, thank you.
So 7 years, you've probably learned a ton.
Oh, my. Yes.
How much, I always ask this question to people, not on the podcast, just when I interact, how much did you learn in school that was actually specifically translatable to?
None of it.
That's okay. Good. Same with me.
No, it's shocking. And even the school, I went to the Art Institute of Dallas, and our whole big promotion was that we get you ready for the workforce, which they did to some extent, but never to this caliber. Like it just is mind-blowing. It's definitely a learning curve. It's a sink or swim kind of industry, I think.
Yeah. Well, because, it's changing constantly, too.
Exactly.
So even in 7 years, what was
what was typical back, in 2012 is very different than
very different.
Today.
It's always evolving for sure.
So you didn't start in your current role. You started just as a designer?
Yeah.
Okay. And then just started working your way through it and meshing with the right people, and success happened?
Yeah, I think I don't have that personality to just sit back and do design and that's it and let the jobs come to me. I think maybe a little aggressive in a sense, and I want to be in front of customers. I want to be in front of people. I want to learn this. I want to do that. So I just kind of weaseled my way up a little bit.
Okay, we can call it that. It's also success. Or,
yes. I guess it could be, yes.
Sure. So what are some of the biggest things you've learned in that time? Of course, a stay-at-home mom, my wife's a stay-at-home mom, so she knows you're learning and all sorts of things there.
Oh my goodness, yes.
But coming back to the workforce and doing what you're doing now, what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned over the last 7 years?
Well, I think the technology aspect of it has been insane. Just taking the furniture aspect of it in general is that instant gratification and the knowledge the consumer today has just everything at their fingertips. And so they challenge you on that, where even 7 years ago, you didn't go to Amazon to get a task chair, an office chair, or a guest chair. Right now you can buy all that and it ships to your door, and you got to compete with that. So I think learning the market and understanding that speed to market aspect of it is a big challenge, and learning that people are constantly evolving in the way that we work. You think about the younger generation even, and they're happy with just a laptop and AirPods, and they're good to work. And if you leave them alone and give a great environment, then they're going to produce for you. And
Sure.
I think other companies are struggling with maintaining that, as well as maintaining those traditional sense older people, if you will, and
Right,
keeping
35 and older.
Yeah, right, exactly. 35, so old, and keeping them happy in a workforce and productive as well. So I think it's a big balance over the last 7 years of watching owners trying to maintain that for both generations.
And then the furniture industry, I think, has had to really transform even over the last 7 years thanks to Amazon, because
Right.
traditionally it's a very slow industry.
Yes.
You would want to work with a furniture dealer because they can give you all sorts of expertise on space planning and on different options, and then put it all together for you.
Mm-hmm.
But it usually took 8, 10, 12 weeks or longer for lead times.
Yeah, nobody wants that anymore.
And it's just not okay anymore.
No,
right?
it's not okay. I mean, there's still manufacturers you deal with that it is that kind of lead time, and people are shocked by that. The clients are shocked. But what do you mean I got to wait 8 weeks? And you're
Right.
like, well,
So as a dealer, is that part of your initial conversation with a customer, either setting expectations or steering them based on their demands? So if they're like, it's got to be 2 weeks or else we shouldn't even be talking, so then you know exactly what to steer them to, or is that
yeah, it's
part of
having
the process?
that dialogue with them for sure. It's trying to get an understanding of, budget always comes into play, but also that lead time. So that's the first question we have. When do you need to be in there? And they're like, well, we need to be in 3 weeks. We're like, okay, well, then your selection is this and it's a small little pod here, and you get just this little bit of options. But if you give us 4 weeks, we can give you a little bit more. And I think one of the benefits to our company specifically is that we do have that pre-owned aspect to it. So we're always offering the solution of, hey, we can loan you some furniture in the meantime. So don't settle on getting something you don't like,
genius.
but you can wait the extra couple of weeks if we just throw a couple tables and chairs in there for you as a loaner.
You can put together something so they can start on Monday, but then get what they really want.
Right.
a month
Just wait
later.
a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. It's a partnership. I think customer service is huge, right? That's how you get the repeat business, and you get the name out there that people are always talking about. You build a relationship with your clients, and the trust factor, and
Sure.
it's a give and take.
So we all know office space is changing, office design is changing. What are some of the major changes you've seen, maybe more recently, the last couple of years? What would you say?
I think that open collaboration theory that
Sure.
everybody wants, right? So everybody wants the large windows and all open, airy space, and to see across the entire office selection. But then, that's where your company really comes into play and plays a key role but how is everybody on the phone at the same time if we're all in this open, airy area? So then it's a challenge to to kind of get that mesh, that feel, that look, that aesthetic, but the functionality of it too.
And you guys are always expected to be the experts on everything.
Right.
So it's like, we want this space. A design firm may have designed it, or, or maybe the customer's walked another, a friend of theirs or a colleague of theirs space, and now they've got an idea what they want, and they're coming to you, and now it's your job to not only give them what they're asking for, but also
solution.
Yeah, put the whole thing together for them that actually works.
That works, the functionality of it, and a lot of people kind of forget that aspect of it. I think one of the key questions I always ask too is, well, are you paper heavy, or how do you function on a daily basis? And they're like, oh, we didn't think about that. Because when you think of a traditional office, you want the hutch, but nobody puts anything in there anymore.
Mine is it's like I have 4 junk drawers now. And
See?
they're really deep, so I can put all sorts of things in there.
You don't need the storage anymore. It's all paperless these days. So then it can open you up to some different components that you need. Smaller footprint, definitely get.
Sure. Well, and then, we were even looking at that in our office because we were looking to change some furniture out. And we're having some culture conversations with some folks that have big furniture with lots of desk space. And, I'm like, well, but we're not going to replace that.
Right.
If you're getting something new, it's going to be 5 foot by 30 inch.
Exactly.
And it's going to move up and down. and you're not going to have all this space to put paper all over the place. So we're having those conversations now. So hopefully when it comes time to actually move people into some new space,
it's a challenge. I mean, we find that often with a lot of companies. They have their executives even they're pulling out of offices and putting them in the pit, if you will, with all the other people. And they're like, well, what do you mean I don't have a door and this huge 12 by 12 space? They're like, no, you have a 6 by 6 little space to work in, and you'll be just as efficient. I assure you. It's just a different mentality altogether. It goes back to that kind of that generational play and that open collaboration concept that everybody wants.
So do you think it's a good thing?
I do. I think it is a good thing. I think a key to when you hire someone who's young and new, you want to be able to be visible with somebody who's experienced to see that everyday play, how they function, how they react, how they handle their situation and good and bad. So if they're behind closed doors and it's all shut and locked in, nobody gets to experience that. Nobody gets to grow and learn from that scenario. You need to have them really close together to see that. It's a visibility. It's
that makes a lot of sense.
Do as I do, not as I say kind of scenario, right? Like,
I'll tell you what to do, then I'm going to go into my office and shut my door.
Shut the door, right.
You need to focus and make 50 calls today.
Right. But I don't make any.
Don't make any, Yeah. That's a really good point. I never really thought about it from that aspect. So, what do you think, if you had to guess, where are we going from here? Like, what are some of the other changes you think might be out there?
It's interesting. I think for the last 3 years, if you look back, I was kind of contemplating the concept of people working from home more and more, but I think nobody wants that, right? Like if you're home by yourself, you're all hunkered in, you don't have that personable skills anymore, and everybody loves to be around people. Well, not everybody, but the majority of us love to be around people. Yeah. So I don't think it's going to go into that direction to that extent, but you do see more and more everybody I talk to, well, I work from home 2 days a week, and then I go into the office 3 days a week. And so you don't need those larger spaces. And I mean, you see that we work in those spaces that are just exploding left and right, because specifically with startup companies, they just need a place to sit down, have a quick little conference, and they just need a Wi-Fi and apparently a coffee machine and a keg, it seems, because those all seem to be outfitted with those. But I think the footprint of the brick and mortar is just going to get smaller and smaller.
Which then, for a company like ours, makes us happy, if you will.
Yes.
From a growth standpoint, because when you do that, it just requires more and more consideration for acoustical treatments. And how do you make that smaller space more efficient and everybody's time, more focused on the job? So that's where we try and come in for sure. And you guys are definitely evolving well with that. I think specifically with you changing your names recently because of that play of we're not just sound masking anymore. We do all these other things. It's you see it everywhere. It's always a conversation. It's always something that is talked about when you think about an office space, for sure. Yeah, and it's one of those things where we're very passionate about helping dealers like your company become experts, and how do we partner with you guys to make so much easier for you guys to have those conversations and know what solutions are available, so you can walk into a space and give the client what they want, but then also protect them from things they don't know,
Mm-hmm.
which is usually how acoustics comes in. They're not usually bringing that up to you necessarily. It's your job to help educate them on some of these areas they might have issues with. Because I can tell you one thing is if you don't, and then, we've seen this where they move into their space and then they got exactly what they wanted, right? They said, we want all open, we want everything.
Mm-hmm.
They move in and then everybody's mad and complains. And
It's
they
a
always
terrible
blame,
space to
and then
work.
they always blame the people that gave them the furniture as if it's your fault.
Right.
When it's like, well, you asked for that, right?
Right. It's
we
a
could have
tricky
done
business.
8-foot cubicle walls.
Oh my.
You still have those somewhere in a warehouse, right?
Right, somewhere buried way deep
Yeah.
in the dark hole of the warehouse. Yes, we do.
Yeah, so you could have given them to them, but they wanted something, more open. And it's funny. That's kind of the thing that we're always looking to do is how do we help dealers that we work with be experts or become experts
Mm-hmm.
in the field that we're experts in, and that I think it's just going to make you guys much more able to give your clients exactly what they want.
It's true.
And I know you know that because you guys work with us pretty extensively.
We do,
so.
because it's always the afterthought, and it's always that after they get in and then they're like, oh my gosh, this is a terrible conference room, for example. I'm like, well, it's because you have concrete floors and a laminate table and windows. Like,
It's a drum.
right. We need to bounce off of that
You're
a little
inside
bit.
of a drum.
Yes. And cubicles, because that's kind of a thing of the past. It's really the benching scenario these days. And so to come up with those acoustical panels to just kind of help, or even those beautiful dividers that you guys offer nowadays, is it's aesthetically pleasing and functional. So that's a win-win
That's
right
our story,
there,
right?
right?
If you can make them dual purpose, make them look good and work, that's...
Yeah, you can't beat that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
it sells itself.
So how are some of the ways that you stay on top of some of these trends? Is it just interacting with customers and manufacturers, or do you do other things that kind of keep you on top of things?
You got to do other things because the customers don't know. They're relying on me to do that. So it's really kind of having those relationship with the design firms and the designers, and then doing your homework and research at home.
Mm-hmm.
Just on the computer, looking through design magazines and research and whatnot, and seeing what those latest trends are, because they change constantly. And it's my job to know what that expectation
Exactly.
is down the road to some extent. So it's a challenge, but if you love it, it's easy.
So this answer might be the same as the one you just gave me, but what are some of the most exciting things about your job?
I think the most exciting to me is when we start with a company that's startup, that 3 people, and in a year they grow to 10 people, and then in a year it's 12 people, and in a year it's, it just continues to grow. And we have one client specifically that it was literally that scenario. It was 3 people when they started, and 5 years later there are 100 people, and
Wow.
we got to grow with them. And it's so exciting to see that growth and that relationship and watch them expand and
Yeah.
explode.
Awesome.
That's my favorite part of the job by far, is getting to know those people and watch them just thrive.
I mean, I would. Most people would look at a designer and say that's the job of the salesperson to be all excited about the customer, right?
I guess that's
And
the
so
sales in me coming
that's
out.
That's where you're really a unique person, I think, is your most favorite thing is not when I designed that beautiful office. It's interacting with the customer, which is probably makes you pretty successful, I would think.
Yes. Yeah.
At least you enjoy it, for sure.
I do. I love it. Yeah, for sure. The design part of it, I love design, but it comes down to, I think a true designer is to give the customer what they need,
Sure. not
what they want necessarily.
Yeah.
So knowing that balance.
Mm-hmm. So the flip side of that, what are maybe some of the things that are frustrating?
That's a great question. It's frustrating when you have clients that don't necessarily trust you and want to take that leap, and
Sure.
so you cut back more and more and more, and the whole time you're just like, oh, I wish they would just trust me on this, because I know that would be successful for them, but they just don't want to take that chance. And there's nothing you can do about it. You
Yep.
can talk to your blue in their face and give examples and do what you need to, but at the end of the day, they've made up their mind, and it gets to be challenging.
So scenarios like that, are they typically financial? Like they don't want to spend the money on it?
Not
or-
always. I think a lot of it is just the lack of knowledge. They just don't understand. I don't want to say understand, because I explain it to them. They just don't see the value in it at the end of the day. Even if it isn't financial necessarily, it's some people, and I'm to blame
Is
too.
it change?
It's changed.
Okay.
It is. It's changed. It's just not wanting to
Try
do anything different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it this way, and I'm going to do it this way, and it doesn't matter. And you're like, okay.
How often are you proved right in that scenario? Like, do they move forward, and then like, do you get feedback later? Like,
yeah, I'm just
curious about
I rarely. Gosh, I don't want to sound boastful, but I rarely have had a scenario where someone said, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I've never heard that. It's always been like, I'm glad you convinced me to do that.
Sure.
I'm glad that was the decision we made. You were absolutely right. So,
and that's not boastful because that's your job. I
right.
mean, your job is to know these things and to put people in the right space. So
yes, that
even
is the
better
best
than
part too.
They know, that's for sure. Yeah.
When you finish up a project and then they want you to walk through it, and you can see their pride in it too, and they're like, we're just so grateful you walked us through this. And I mean, that's fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if you had a magic wand that could just fix anything industry-wide, doesn't even need to necessarily be your job, just in general as it relates to the industry, what you do, your company, something like that, what would it be?
Oh my goodness.
Without throwing anybody into the bus.
Right. That's a tough one. That's gosh, I think it's so simplistic in that it just comes to honesty. Like, I feel like that's the biggest challenge that we have is we're being honest and upfront, and we put it all out there, and we're very, detailed in that scenario. And then somebody comes across and I don't know that they're not, but it doesn't make sense that they're different than us.
Sure.
If they are being truthful. So it's just that simplistic, I guess.
Sure.
Magic wand. Everybody be honest.
Yeah. Well, and like, if I were to answer that, I would say a very similar answer. Like, I just want people to be informed about the reality, right?
Right.
The truth.
Right. Be upfront. Be honest.
So
Expectations.
I don't mind losing a project, but if we lose because they made the wrong choice in solution, not brand,
Mm-hmm.
but like they went with the wrong stuff that is not going to solve their problem, that's when we get real frustrated, because it's like, now you're going to be mad, and you might even be mad at our industry just because
You went in the wrong direction.
you put the wrong stuff that applied to the wrong problem, and now you're not going to be satisfied.
Right.
There are other times where they go with our competition. It's the right solution, and that's okay. I'm always okay with it. I mean, I'm not okay with that, right? But I'm okay that they went, at least they went with the right solution. So if you have a client perspective, they're going to be happy with the solution they have, even if it wasn't from us. But the worst part is when they get tricked or misinformed or go with a solution that's not even going to solve their problem. And that's where we get real frustrated.
It is frustrating. You always hear that saying, apples to apples, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we have that discussion, it's like, but are we comparing apples to apples? So do you really need to do your homework and dig deep and see, are they offering what we're offering and vice versa? So
the industry is definitely better with you in it.
Oh, well, thank you.
Because you're if your answer is, I want people to tell the truth.
Right? Exactly.
That's always good. We need more Arwens in the world.
Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite things to do, or one of your favorite things to do when you are not working?
I love being outdoors, anything outdoors, whether it's hiking, biking, canoeing, anything outside. I'm good, happy, favorite thing ever. Try to be outside as much as possible.
Even in August?
Even in August.
Even in August.
Nice. Yeah, no problem. Just jump in the pool later.
There you go. And so I guess this answer might follow suit with that. But if you had all the money in the world and could do anything that you wanted to do, what would it be?
Travel. Be outside.
Be outside somewhere. Traveling.
Travel. Yeah, travel all over the world would be fantastic. Take the fam and go travel the world.
Where is your number one preferred destination, or someday
I would say Barcelona would probably be top of my list by far for the architectural aspect of it, for sure.
Awesome.
One day.
After
the kids are raised.
There you go. That's what we keep saying. So
right?
Once they're out, then maybe we can do it. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I'm close. We'll see.
I got my wife to take a trip to Mexico. My kids are 8 and 4. And there's 2 birthdays. That's why I hesitated. I'm like, I do know my kids' age.
Right.
But we went to Mexico last year. It was the first time she left the country away from the kids.
Oh.
and left him with the grandparents, and she was fine. But we've always wanted to go to Europe, and I cannot get her.
No,
She's like,
you got to wait till they're older.
That's too far.
Yep.
Like Mexico is a 3-hour flight. We could jump on a plane and get there this afternoon. It's not the case if you're in Italy. So.
No, So my daughter went to Italy 2 years ago for the first time by herself with the school. It was a school scenario. It was very difficult as a mom. She was so far away, and I'm like, if anything happens, what do I do? It's terrible. You got to wait. There's no way you're convincing your wife otherwise. I guarantee it.
Solid 10 plus years before we're going over the big sea.
At least, yes. Unless you all go together.
That's a good point.
What I anticipate.
Well, Arwen, thanks so much for spending some time with me. I know you're busy, so we're not trying to take up too much of your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I know you're a great partner of ours, and your company is, and
yes.
we really value that. And I want to bring you in because I know you're doing some unique things, and I really appreciate all your expert information that you shared with us, and for being here.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks.